Welcome, welcome. Season 4, Episode 8 of the Breaking Chains podcast. Today we're going to talk about setting boundaries.
Lines in the sand.
Don't cross
this line.
So what does that mean to you?
I don't know, but all boundaries get tested when you have children.
I agree with that.
There's like no such thing as a boundary. What was I listening to yesterday about like family boundaries and that podcast. So I was watching the podcast. The fact that we do a podcast, we should probably watch more podcasts. But I was watching the podcast first with Cat Williams. With Shannon Sharp, the Shay Shay. Oh my God, highly recommend to watch that podcast. Only like that's our jam. Like I love when all our worlds kind of combine. And so like we've been watching this Hollywood thing crumble since COVID, right? Like we have this friend who's like, blah, like he like goes down the rabbit holes and he was talking about Hollywood for a long time and how it's like crashing down now.
Yeah.
Like, and all the dark stuff is coming to light. And so on this podcast, Cat Williams goes in on the darkness, like the selling souls in order to gain monetary stuff, like just have money and fame and fortune. Like you do some stuff. He's like, all I know is I made it. Like, well, my butthole's still a virgin and I never sucked a penis. So it's just like so funny that he's just like blatantly saying this stuff. But that led me to the Monique. So and then I was like, the Monique one was next. So, Monique, the actress, and she had her little word on his podcast, and she was talking about like lines you don't cross, and that comes like with families. Like I don't know why that was a long spiel to get to that, but there's a boundary. I was just saying, go watch those podcasts with Monique and Kevin Hart on the Shay Shay. Like after you watch this episode,
Kevin
go watch
Hart?
those.
Isn't it what Cat?
Cat Williams, yeah. They both called out Kevin Hart though. It's dark stuff. But something happened with her family and boundaries. And what's funny is within family, boundaries are tested the most. But it's interesting when it's like your family that there's kind of this line we don't cross when it comes to allowing other people to like talk about or get involved.
What do you mean?
Like you have your family and your familial issues, but there's kind of like a boundary that I'm allowed to come in and say X, Y, and Z within your family. It's like your stuff. Same with mine. Like you can't just step into my family and be like, tell me what to do with my family.
I don't think boundaries are about what you can do with your family. It's about my own boundary within your family and your own boundary within my family.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's like an understood line.
Give me an example. First and foremost, what is a boundary? How about we like...
But that's what I think I'm trying to...
But let's say it really easy. To me, if I had to say what a boundary is, it's a level of self-respect and self-love for yourself where you say, this is what I'm willing to entertain or accept or be a part of. So and up to this level, I'm willing to do that.
So you're talking about self-boundaries.
What
about boundaries?
How can you have a boundary outside of self?
Boom, episode over. There are boundaries. Okay, I like that. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I love myself so much that I'm accepting this or not accepting this.
Love, respect, whatever it is.
But
self-worth, it's all connected.
But when it comes to different entities, such as our relationship, such as family, such as friendship, such as work.
Yep.
Oh, I get it. It's all to do with yourself. Only you could have boundaries for yourself. There's no such thing as creating boundaries for others.
No, you can't. When you're talking to your family, you can't set a boundary for them. You're setting the boundary for yourself.
Deep.
I don't know.
See, I knew I liked you. I That's deep. Seriously, that's like profound in the sense of understanding boundaries, period. There is nothing outside of yourself to say this person should not do this or this person can't do this. You could only accept something, tolerate something, stand for something within yourself.
That's it.
There's no controlling other people. It's
None.
only like, this is what I allow and this is what I don't allow. Here's a line in the sand for me.
Correct. Only for
And
you.
I'm not stepping over this line. And like, there's no way for somebody to step over this line because I won't allow them to.
Exactly.
So once it gets muddy, then that's on you because you don't even know where your own line is.
Correct.
Got it. I like that. Thank you for clarifying what a boundary is. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's the only way that we can set a boundary. Because
So-
like externally, how would we even possibly set a boundary externally? It's not.
But I think that's a good conversation to have because, I mean, I'm pretty firm with boundaries just innately. I'm just like, eh. And I think my level of boundaries come more from a standard that I have for myself. Like you said, respect.
Yeah.
Like how people talk to me.
Yeah.
But that boundary comes from how I talk to others.
Agreed.
Right? So like if I like don't curse at people, if I don't name call, I'm certainly not tolerating it.
Of course.
But like I have to know like I'm not doing it on this end. And it's funny, like sometimes I come off strong. Sometimes I come off a certain way, but I also don't get offended when somebody talks to me like that either. Like I'm kind of cool. Other than you, I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes,
When I get a little.
but it's only you that bothers me.
So what is about other people being able to do that? And I don't ever talk to you like really out of disrespect.
I don't know. I
ever.
think you should always just like be nice and sweet to me.
So that's an expectation that you have.
Yeah. Do you always want me to be nice and sweet to you?
I don't know if I'd be able to appreciate the moments you are nice and sweet to me if you didn't
I'm always nice and sweet to you.
give me the other.
Balance. But it really is. It's like that self-respect that allows you to say, oh, I'm not tolerating this from somebody else
Correct.
because I don't dish it out. Right?
I don't know if it's also like that you don't dish it out. It's just like, I don't need to be a part of this because this doesn't make me feel good. And that is what I mean by self-love, self-respect, self-worth, is that you just, I don't want to say as you grow older, I think as you start to like go deep inside yourself, you're like, because a lot of the things we do put up with is just from things as a child that we were conditioned to put up with.
Right. So
Right. So like
you have
now
to grow.
we're like, man, okay, I'm putting up with this right now, but it doesn't feel right. And then as you start to lose your conditioned beliefs of what you thought you had to do, right? Like for instance, if you were like I guess from my perspective, if you were a kid that, kind of got beat.
Abused by your parents.
Yeah. If you got abused,
I mean, beat
and you kind of were in a place of like, I can't really say anything because I'm going to get hit again, or I'm going to get hit again. Or like, like for instance, your voice didn't matter, or like whatever, like I told you that you're going to do this because I told you I'm this person. Like when you start to look at these things of all of our
say that
condition-
again. Sorry.
Almost like
I was still thinking
you
about the
didn't-
beat part.
Like you didn't have a choice. Like you didn't have a choice because your parent told you this, so you just listened. You blatantly listened because out of fear, right? Either you were going to do it, or if you didn't do it, you were going to get beat. So you just did it, right? Or then another
You're
situation.
working from a fear state.
100%.
So you don't even know how to operate from a creative space of love and opportunity. It's like, I am afraid to speak my voice. I am afraid to do what I feel like doing from my heart because I'm just thinking of what could happen if I make a wrong
You're thinking
move.
about all the different possibilities, typically on the negative side of all the wrong things that could happen. Typically, that means you're about to experience more pain.
Okay.
So I better not do this. Like, for instance, if you saw, if you saw your parents, like let's say you saw your mom get hit, like I saw my mom get hit, and you just had to be quiet because you're like, for instance, I remember being like, Mom, shh, shh, shh.
Just stop.
Shh,
Just stop.
Stop talking. Stop talking. So it goes away.
Right.
Right? Like when you think about that, then as you get older, you don't want to cause no problems. You don't want to deal with that pain because you've been taught that if you speak up, that could lead to more hitting, more abuse, more this, more pain, more suffering. So instead, you just start to kind of roll through life, not to light any fires, not to cause any
now
this.
Circle boundaries into this.
So now I'm coming back around to boundaries. Like, no, you can't speak to me like that.
So the moment you realize there's a line, like even if it's been crossed so many times, sometimes you only understand a boundary because of your experience and the pain that somebody crossing a line that you can no longer tolerate. That's the only way you even know how to set up a boundary.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that you don't even know that you're operating out of a habitual pattern.
Right. So
until you can see the pattern, like the sequence of events. Man, every time I go to ask for this, I find myself feeling scared. Why? What am I scared of? And you start looking at your patterns and you can kind of trace them back to why you would even be feeling that way. But then you realize that that's just a belief. It's just a conditioned belief and you're operating out of habitual patterns. And then from there, you challenge that. And once you challenge that, you're like, that's not my life. It doesn't have to be my life. And then you start having more self-respect, more self-worth, more self-love. And then the boundary comes in.
So let's go back to that boundary, right? Because I like that example of abuse. So when you stood up to your abuser, right?
Yes.
Like, I am no longer dealing with this. You ever touch me again, I'll kill you, right? You can't do this to me. Once you set that line up, right? Like, you can no longer do this to me. What did that do for you as a man once you stepped into fatherhood? Like, once you set that line up.
There was an instantaneous, like, I actually remember saying that. And there was an instantaneous shift in myself where it just, no, never again will you ever fucking hit me.
And because you did that, what does that do for your boundary? Once that boundary was set into place.
It created that boundary. Mm-hmm. And that boundary was never crossed again. Right. So the question was.
So was the shift within that person or was it within you?
I think they're one and the same.
Cool. Yeah. And
if somebody, like for instance, if somebody puts a boundary up and you really mean it, they tend to more acknowledge that boundary.
How does somebody know if you're serious about a boundary? So like, let's say I was talking to you in a way that you didn't like.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, I really seriously don't want you to talk to me like this anymore. Mm-hmm. How would I understand that that's a real boundary?
Is this a real conversation between you and I in our relationship?
Yeah. How would I understand that's a real boundary?
So there's often times now.
That was loud. Sorry.
I'm probably gonna say like either yesterday or the day before, maybe within the last 3 days, I asked you a question in the way that you spoke back to me. I think it was unnecessary, and I told you at that moment in time, I was like, why do you have to speak like that? So at the same time, I understand it's busy. We got a lot going on.
You asked a dumbass question. I'm like, yo, I'm just joking.
It is what it is.
It wasn't a dumb question.
My point is, though, that I don't have like this hard boundary of like, don't ever speak to me like that because we're human and we have moments where I can give you the space. But I'm also, my boundary is acknowledging the self-respect that I have for myself. And I'm going to remind you of that.
Well, I remember there was one time where we were in the kitchen. I think it was Thanksgiving. Your family was there. I remember the moment. You were like in the oven or something, and you yelled at me.
Okay.
And I'm saying that one time because after that, I sat down with you in the living room. I was like, yo, you will never yell at me again like that. And like, it was so clear for me because I was like, I know for a fact in my relationship, like what I grew up witnessing, people yelling at each other, cursing at each other, disrespecting each other. I was like, this is not a relationship I'm ever going to be in. And so like, it was a very clear boundary for me. Like, I'm not yelling at you. I'm not yelling at my partner. My partner's not yelling at me. So I remember that one time you yelled at me and I was like,
What did I say? And what was it about?
it doesn't matter.
I think it does matter.
No, it doesn't matter because what was happening is you yelled at me. It was like very much like a yell. And I was like, eh. Like if that ever happened again, I knew that like I couldn't do the relationship. And you respected that boundary. And it was within me because I knew in my heart of hearts.
Did I apologize to you?
Yes.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is like it was such a clear boundary and you felt it. But I knew the boundary was within me and I was so firm with that and you probably felt that like, oh shit, she's not playing. Like this is like serious to her. And I think that that's where boundaries happen. Like that the person outside of you only takes it as serious as you take yourself.
I agree with that.
Like, and I think that's why it's important. Like if people go to therapy and they're like boundary setting and all this, like how do I like work on my boundaries? Like a lot of times boundaries get crossed from that lack of self-respect and that fear of not pleasing this person, like being afraid of this person. Like if I was afraid of you, if I was afraid to lose you, like, oh my gosh, like what am I going to do without Chris in my life? I'm so scared. Like if I have to take yelling because I can't live without him. What am I going to do? So I might live with you and like get yelled at. I'm not saying you're this kind of person or you yelled at me often. I'm just using it as an example. If I was to if you yelled at me once and then I let you yell at me again and again, it would become habitual. Like every time you're angry, you just yell. It would be natural because that's where your anger was at the point. At this point, you're a whole different person. Like you're not even a person that yells really at anyone, except for our children when it gets really bad. But it would have been a habitual thing, just like anybody else. So it's that inner work. But I think where the lack of, if I'm to see this clearly, of people being able to set that boundary is from fear. Like I'm afraid, like when you said you watched your mother, like she was afraid to say, because she already had children. She already had things like, oh my gosh, like I can't necessarily do anything right now because I'm scared. What do I do? And then you as her child, like, yo, yeah, you better shut up because he's coming for me next if you don't stop, right? Like, I don't know.
Well, from that perspective, it was more about her.
Right.
Like to watch your mom get hit in front of you and you're a kid and you can't do nothing about it.
Yeah.
And that's pretty
Just
pretty
shut
rough.
up. Yeah. So now we talked about relationships and then you talked about, like relationship with a mother. How is it different with a partner? I think the difference with the partner and like parenthood, right? Like it's easier to create relationship boundaries in a relationship because you choose it. Not always easier, like if you like are in a messy situation, but I chose you. I mean, we could spiritually say we chose our parents and our parents chose us, right? But like you're given a family. You're born here into a family. How do you set boundaries within your family? And when have you?
Like my immediate family or like
family? Like what are boundaries in family? Like I think that is the thing that affects us the most because we base a lot of our life off of
I think
family.
boundaries sometimes they can be black and white, and I think sometimes they're a little bit more convoluted. And I say that because,
You work with your sister.
yeah, I mean, everything is a pro and a con. And if you really think about it, I don't think that we're all seeking like unbelievable happiness and perfect relationships. I don't think that's what we're seeking. I think what we're seeking peace in whatever is in front of us. And
Contentedness.
yeah, just peace. Like, okay, this is in front of me right now. I got to deal with it. It is what it is. But like, would everlasting happiness, does that actually make people happy? I don't know. I think it's the combination of both. But talking about like the boundaries, it's like, I think every situation is unique. Like I might have specific boundaries with this person based off of he's my brother or that's my sister. Because my relationship dynamic with each one of them is even slightly different. One's a girl, one's a boy. I'm just naturally going to treat them slightly different, not on purpose,
What are
but
you
because of
saying?
my relationship.
Are you
I'm saying,
sexist?
no, I'm saying boundaries in unite. Well, let's talk about my relationship with you and then a relationship with a friend. Like there's different boundaries. I think I don't think it's just black and white.
If something's within, so this is interesting what you're saying.
Yeah.
If there's a boundary within, how does it change without? So
If there's a boundary of what though? I could have a boundary on a million different topics.
right. So like, let's say like boundaries in terms of healing.
Correct.
If you're trying to heal in a way that you're a people pleaser.
Okay. Yeah.
I want to make everyone around me like me and help me. And I want to make everyone around me like me and not abandon me. And I want to make sure like I please everyone because I need to be liked. I need to be like loved. I'm seeking attention. I'm seeking approval. Mm-hmm. A boundary that I have to set for myself would have to be worldwide, or no?
I don't think that every relationship is that person pleasing everybody. There might be
People
specific
that are using
people
you 'cause they
that is their people pleasing and they're making up for it in other areas with other people who might be people pleasing them,
So I think that what I just brought that up, it actually made me think like that usually stems from familial stuff first.
I'm sure.
Seeking approval usually stems from disapproval from parents, family, maybe not getting the attention that your other siblings got.
Yeah.
And so like if I'm constantly doing this and I'm then complaining that people are using me, like I do all this for other people and nobody ever gives me anything back. So it's usually cyclical like that. It's not just doing things and feeling good about it. It's doing things, seeking approval, and then being disappointed because you don't ever get the approval that you're really seeking.
Okay.
So the only way to set the boundary is learning to say no.
Actually, I think the only way to set the boundary is to look at your own habitual patterns. Odds are, if you're people pleasing somebody else or using somebody else, or somebody's using you, that you're doing the same thing in other ways. So I think once you start to realize, damn, I kind of do that too. I don't want to do that no more. I think it all stems from our own behavior in many ways that we're not seeing, right? So it's almost like our consciousness gives us an external source of a characteristic or trait that we have, but we can't look inside ourselves. Like we don't have the ability to look inside ourselves to see it. So somebody comes into our life to wake it up. But if we continue looking externally at somebody else and not say what they're doing, what about myself? Could that do? I think that's where the healing comes in, because you can't change the other person. The other person is just here to shine light on where you need to grow.
Yeah.
So if I'm waiting for them to change, when am I ever going to change? I have to look at myself at a deeper level to know where I need to change.
Yeah, I mean, I will say like, and it's a never ending, right? Like, because boundaries is funny, and it's funny that Tyler is like, oh, a lot of people are searching for this right now. Like, people are asking this because it's this hot topic. Like, I need to respect my boundaries, and I'm saying no to everyone's self-care, right? Like, it's all about me and my boundaries, and no, hard yes, or you're hearing this a lot. Like, this is something
I don't
that's happening.
understand hard no.
Right.
Or
So that's
hard
what's
yes.
funny. So like
it's no.
I kind of like what you said though, and like it is convoluted, and it's not so definite. Like, it's not this line all the time. There's a hard line, like my example, or like, I won't be spoken to like this.
Yeah.
But like, let's say you had this crazy day, you lost your shit, and then like, I came home and like said something really mean or just started nagging, and it's like, yo, I can't take it. Like, would I be like, yo, I want a divorce right now, right?
It's context.
Like, right, it's context, and there's an energetic exchange that's always happening.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's always like a little messenger. When you're feeling that trigger of like, are you checking your boundaries? Are you checking your boundaries? Like, somebody outside may be like, oh, you're just a people pleaser and you keep saying yes. But like, it might get deeper into that. Like, you're seeking approval. Who do you want that approval from? Do you recognize that like, you can't go back and make like mommy and daddy always praise you, and you can't be mad at that either, but you have to start being like, yo, I'm okay. I'm pretty awesome. I'm doing this life. I am a great friend. I am a good person. Oh, now that's easier to be like, I'm sorry, I can't come this weekend. And I'm overwhelmed this weekend. I can't always do all the things that people are asking me. I can say no, or I won't feel this pressure of constantly needing to be perfect, because like,
Yeah.
I realize nobody is. But you will keep like, even when you overcome one thing, you're going to keep getting checked on another thing, right? So this boundaries thing, it's not really about boundaries. It's about becoming more aware of yourself and what you're allowing yourself and others to do and perpetrate.
I think it's like an energy thing. It's almost like, is this worth my energy? That's what the boundary comes down to. Like, for instance, if you say something to me, it's worth my energy to just let you know how I feel. Mm-hmm. Right? It's important for me to do that.
Sometimes.
Number one, I can respect that you're my wife, and I obviously like enjoy our life. There's other people that if they talked a specific way to me, like, I wouldn't give them the same space to do that, right? So like, that's what I mean by it depends on who we're speaking to. But at the end of the day, I think that it's the way that something makes you feel, but you don't know until you can start to get more in tune with your internal feelings to begin with.
Right.
Like, because everything is polarized. Like, if you think about your ego mind, one moment you're happy and the next moment you're angry. Like, the ego doesn't have the ability to to be centered.
It's like training a monkey all the time.
It's just
like,
it's all over the place.
come back over here.
But until you start to acknowledge that you're more than just a person, there's just like a deep wisdom that starts to come over you, that you start to feel like vibrations and frequencies in people.
And connected. Like,
Yeah,
you start to
it's
connect
just-
to people's, the way they're reacting instead of reacting back. It's almost like you're able to take that pause we talk about. Like, I see why you're angry, and I'm not going to let your anger poke my anger, right? Because
Yeah.
my monster wants to come out too now.
Yeah.
But now I could take a breath and reassess. Like,
And even if you think about somebody who's like, and this is just a thought, the person who's like, sorry, it's a hard no. Like, why did you have to explain it to me? Why did you have to?
I have boundaries.
So, but in reality, if I had to just think from my perspective, that's just another false flag.
It's another layer.
They needed to still explain to me
why
they're
Still
saying
not a real
no.
boundary.
Like, it's
'Cause,
not
yeah.
it's not real. Maybe they're trying to step into their power, which is cool and respectable. Like,
It's all a process.
Say it's a hard no. That's fine. I don't take it, but if you say it, I know you're still not really
addressing your
you're
beast.
still
Yeah.
you're not coming from a peaceful decision-making place of, you know what? you know what, I'm actually not going to go to that party tonight.
So what you're explaining is like it's not this thing like what we said last week on our podcast. It's not like this step-by-step process like ABC 1 2 3. Here's how you start setting boundaries. It's more like asking yourself, what are your boundaries? Are boundaries even real? Or does it make more sense to look at whatever situation you're in and seeing what you're allowing to happen and why?
Of course. I think that's why am I allowing, first of all, how does this make me feel? Like if I'm people pleasing and you really wanted to look deeply into that, you would know that you're people pleasing. You'd be like, man, why did I say yes to that shit? I really don't want to. I really don't want to go. Why did I say yes? Do I really want to drive to like a game at 8 o'clock at night with 3 kids?
I got some stuff.
Like then we start to acknowledge like, you know what? I unfortunately I'm not gonna be able to make it today. It's a little crazy. It's all good. Like, how does that feel? Because when you go somewhere that you don't want to actually go to, and then you're thinking about, oh God, why did I even go here? This sucks, this stinks, then you went against yourself. And I think that's when you start to look deep in that, it actually will unravel the other things naturally.
Yeah.
But you have to have that compassion and spaciousness for yourself. Like feel for yourself that your entire life you have been conditioned. And this is the grace that people aren't giving themselves. And this is why it's scary to look. It's scary to look because you don't know what you're going to find. But like, none of us really know ourselves until we find that spaciousness and that compassion and love for wanting to understand who we are, that we can then dive into that. And I feel like shed the conditioning and the false beliefs that we thought we had to maintain.
Yeah. And another layer is life is complex.
It is.
We are these beings that need to be part of society. We yearn love. We want to be connected. We want to be supported when it comes time to be supported. And we, as human beings, know that only comes by supporting, right? Like, well, at least, you know, like if you're aware, like you only get out of this life as much as you give. That's the only way. The only way to receive is to give, right? And it is a hard thing to process. And even if you come down to the truth, like, okay, at the end of the day, I people please because I really want love. It's like, that's okay.
It's okay.
So what is this hard boundary? Like maybe this time it's a no and maybe next time it's a yes. Maybe it's next week. Maybe it's, I don't know. Can you like, do I have to give you an answer right now? Right? Like there's sometimes just giving yourself time to think about things like when it's not just about.
To like feel it out.
So like, right, there are these certain circumstances, but let's go back to the beginning when we're talking about how we treat others and how we want to be treated, right? So like when it comes to like how people talk to you, it's important to start changing the way you talk to others.
Of course.
If you want to be spoken to differently. When it comes to like, I just went through a thing with my friends when it came to boundaries, and it was like a she said situation. And it was, at the end of the day, I was in the middle. And like, I love these two girls dearly. Yeah. And there was nothing where they don't love each other, they don't like each other, but everyone knows that everyone has things to say about everything and everyone, right?
I have a question.
Chris can walk out of this room right now and be like, yo, Tyler.
But I have a question for what you just said. You said you were in the middle.
Yeah.
Did you put yourself?
I'm the drama. Yeah.
So you're saying that you put yourself in the middle.
Yeah. It's kind of my motif in life. I'm just like always in the middle. Like,
that's beautiful, right?
Child.
Like you actually can sit there and acknowledge that you put yourself in the middle. That's massive growth.
Yeah. I'm like, but I had to sit with that and be like, yeah, I'm actually the problem. But at the same time, and it's not but, it's and. I am the problem in the sense of this situation. So yes, I went and told one friend something that another friend said, which I crossed a boundary. I crossed somebody else's boundary, and she's like, why did you say that? I told that to you in confidentiality. When I was like, I'm very like matter of fact though. Like if you say this is in confidentiality, I won't say anything. But if you just say something to me, I'm like, yo, not that I'm out here telling everyone secrets, but it's like, don't tell me your secrets. Please don't. Like, I'm not.
Don't tell the
I am
secrets.
not the holder of secrets. I'm just not. I don't hold my own secrets. I have no secrets. So don't give me yours. Like, but I will. Like, if you sit there and you're like, please, Chastity, keep this between me and you, it's between me and you.
Maybe.
You have no respect for me. It's between me and you. But like, so if I had,
I just think you're so like, I don't even think sometimes you know what's about to come out.
it's the filter thing.
There's like conversations that I'm like, there's like conversations that I hear you having and I'm like, oh shit, here it comes.
It's the filter thing. Some of us are not born with one. So if like a friend's saying something and I'm like, you could just say this to this friend. So I go to this friend like, yo, she's saying this, but like, I don't understand what's going on. How you feeling? I now know I have a boundary. And my boundary is, I would prefer you not to say anything about, this other person. I would prefer you to go to her. If like you really think this, if you think that she is doing this to you, my boundary now is stopping, like, okay, and redirecting.
Yeah.
Because I am like, it's not healthy. It's never healthy to be a middleman in relationships. And that's like a new boundary that like I'm stepping into. And it was really cool to go through the experience because I was like, I am kind of a people. I'm not like an overly people. I don't care if people like me, but I do like, I like to service. I like to like be there for people. I like to support. I don't like saying no to people. And it's not like this, I need to be loved and liked all the time. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I have like a hard time saying no. But I also like, I felt this like really loneliness of like a friend mad at me. I mean, maybe that's it. Like when somebody's angry at me or upset with me.
I think a good way to put the boundary up is also what you would want from that friend. Like, I think people's lives, like especially our friends, they come to us with like, and we go to people, right? So
venting.
Like they come to us with
opening,
like just to be a backboard or just to be a soundboard to hear themselves. I take like what anybody says to me, like I'm like a vault.
He's the graves. Yeah,
no.
He'll take it to the grave.
The only reason I'm saying that is because it's out of like a personal, like, I don't want to say dignity. What's the word I'm looking for? It's
integrity.
Yeah, it's a level of integrity. It's like, why would I say something to somebody else about this person's life? Why would I do that? What about that is bubbling up in me that I want somebody else to know that? There's just a level of integrity that I think has helped creating our boundaries. And as we look at ourselves and say, what would I want from the world?
Yeah.
We become that reflection for others. Mm-hmm. And then I think those people come to us and we all support each other. So I think boundaries are like a level of integrity with yourself and the world.
So what that situation also did help me with a boundary as well, and this was actually my first real thought, is it made me so much more aware of what is coming out of my mouth, especially when it comes down to friends and people that I love. What is coming out of my mouth, and would I want this information relayed?
Yeah.
Because she asked me, she was like, would you want me to say what you're saying? And I'm like, well, honestly, if I'm being honest, anything that comes out of my mouth, I think if I'm saying it to you, she should be able to hear it. Because it's an integrity thing to me. And if I was to lose her as a friend by what I'm saying to you, I don't deserve her. Like, I truly believe that, though. And if it's something that like, okay, maybe I shouldn't have said, but she can accept and be like, okay, I forgive you. That's on her to forgive me. But if it came out of my mouth, it's like the truth has to come to light for me. And everything done in the dark, done behind somebody's back, I feel like it should be able to bubble up.
Yeah, but I don't always think that when people talk to you, it's truth. It's their feelings.
It's feelings, right?
But the feelings
so
aren't.
Then that should be addressed to that person.
But
If
feelings,
you really
I'm just saying,
feel
feelings
like
always
this.
aren't truth. Like I said, your ego's happy right now. 10 minutes from now, your ego might be angry.
But so let's say I'm complaining about you and things that really make me angry. Like, this is happening, and I'm venting to a sister like, yo, Chris keeps doing this. And then she goes back to you, like, yo, Chastity keeps saying this. Mm-hmm. And you confronted me, like, are you saying this about me? I'd have to face, is this true? Do I really feel like that? Or am I afraid to tell you? So it would be an integrity thing still for me, even though I'm venting and I'm letting it out. Like, because girls need that, guys need that. Like, yo, I can't take it. Like, I think everyone needs that venting, but there has to be a moment of like, all right, is this real complaints? Is this real? Are you really in a spot where like you can't handle? Or are you just complaining and you're doing the same thing and you can't talk to Chris about it? Right? I think that is for me in my life. I don't think that's the same for everyone.
Yeah.
Right? But like, I think it does come down, the integrity always comes from within.
Agreed.
And like,
it can only come from within.
But to hold people's secrets sometimes, I don't know. It's like not, I don't know. It's not like it's a holder of secrets. Like, I'm just like.
But that's what I'm saying. It's actually.
I just don't believe in secrets. Like, Kobe be telling them, like, yo, we don't do secrets in this house. I don't believe in secrets. Secrets are never healthy. I think intimacy.
I don't understand. If your friend tells you something that only they want you to hear.
No, I get that. Like, hey, I want you to hear this.
You don't believe in that. Then you shouldn't be accepting those. You should say, hey, don't talk to me about that.
I mean, that's kind of what I said. Like, your dad be coming to me. He's like, yo, I'm about to tell you something. I want you to tell nobody, right? I don't want you, don't say nothing.
But I don't think that's true. I think people call you.
Tell me. I don't want to hear it. Please stop.
No, you don't want to hear my dad's drama. You don't. It's not about the secrets. If somebody came to you, like right now, your brother called you and said, hey, I want to talk to you. And he had some stuff he needed to let off his chest. That's him opening up his heart to you. You can't say I don't believe in secrets. That's a conversation between you and him based off of how he's feeling.
So it's different. It all comes down to energy and what the real vibe is. So like, if he's opening up to me and he's like, this is how I feel about this situation in our family, and my sister's going through crazy health experiences. I can't imagine what's happening to your brain when you have cancer, and then when you lose a limb, and then you find out you have more cancer, and you've spent a life on the streets, right? Like, when it just ricochets into this thing, and then you're a sibling and you don't know how to react, that's a whole nother level of venting and expressing. But when it's day to day,
but is it? No, it's not. It's a safe space. It's a safe space for somebody to come to you and talk about their husband or talk about their boyfriend or something.
Yeah.
It's also a safe space for somebody to cry to you and say, hey, I don't know, I'm losing my fucking mind and I don't know what to do. It's all a safe space if you want to treat it that way.
I agree.
It's a choice by you to treat it as safe space or drama.
Do you think this is an issue with me where I feel like I don't deserve a safe space? Is this a deserving issue? Does it come back to me, do you think?
Does it come back to you? What do you mean?
Like, do I feel like I've never had a safe space? Maybe. And maybe that's why it's hard for me to be a safe space.
Potentially. Maybe in your family, you never had a safe space. You couldn't tell anybody how you feel about something because there was always an attack back on you. There was always, well, you need to do this, right? The same people who give you advice are the same people who don't do the shit themselves, right? So like, you have to really think about, have you ever had safe space?
So this
And
is
if
a
you want,
boundary.
if you want safe space, you got to be the creator of safe space for yourself and others.
Right. And I am trying to. I'm not gonna tell all your secrets. You can tell me. You can tell me stuff.
But I mean, I think you can also look deeper into it. And,
Yeah, no,
and say
definitely.
like, if you've never had a safe space, then
I mean, that's what it just all came down to. I'm like, damn. Like, who could I tell? Dang, that's crazy to think. This was my little dilemma. And by the way, like, these girls are amazing. They're my friends. But it's very interesting going through things, especially like, doing all this inner work. We do all this inner work, and I like work so hard at. There's no end to it. It's just like you're going to just keep hitting.
it's like
getting
continuous evolution. But
unpeeling the layers of the onion. There's just more like Shrek.
what did we
There's
say
just
the
more
other day?
onion.
It's just lifing,
Lifing.
right? We're just every moment there's an opportunity to learn, and to kind of like excel and also let go. I think as we grow, we end up letting go.
Yeah.
And not holding on. So if you had to give the viewers, an example of how healthy boundaries, or how can they find their traction to healthy boundaries, what would you say, 1, 2, 3? Or
I
whatever?
honestly think where the boundaries things the boundary thing comes in is usually it's where you find yourself complaining a lot. Like, this person keeps doing this. This person keeps doing this. These people, I think it comes down to asking yourself, why? Like you said,
Yeah.
why does this person keep doing this? And what are you getting out of the exchange of this unhealthy boundary line crossing thing? Because I honestly don't think when you feel like a boundary keeps getting crossed, it's usually you're allowing it so that you can get something out of it. And I'm not saying you're getting all this glitz and glamour from it, but maybe it's love. Maybe it's approval. Maybe it's a home to live in. Like, ask yourself, and are you afraid to lose that?
Yeah.
By creating that boundary.
I think boundaries and fears go hand in hand.
Yes.
Right. So I would say, similar to you, I would say first, like, how does what happened make me feel? And then I would ask myself, why do I do that? And I think naturally from those two questions, you start to be like, wow, that didn't make me feel good. But why did I still do what I did when that didn't make me feel good? And then you're just going into the layers of really to the root of why you're doing what you're doing, so that you can actually set a healthy boundary that feels good for you in that moment, without saying like it's the end.
Yeah.
Like, but you know what? Today I'm gonna implement this little boundary, and then you know what? As I can feel more and ask myself more self-inquiry questions, I'm gonna set another boundary and another boundary. And I think the word boundary is a little bit weird, but it's really just setting a level of respect and self-worth and self-love for yourself that you can feel good about.
One of the best books I've read on boundaries, but it's not even about boundaries at all, but everything that you just said came to my mind. Loving What Is, Katie Byron. It's just that inquisitive. She basically teaches you to ask yourself questions. Whenever you have this issue, you ask yourself, it's kind of like mirroring questions, like always pointing the finger back to you, but not in an ashamed guilt type of way. It's like, how do I recognize that I'm doing the same thing?
Of course.
And how do I stop the cycle? I just love, oh, wow. I actually realize that I'm doing it because I love it. And I have to recognize that I love it in order to let it go.
Yeah.
And that's the only way you overcome darkness in your life, is loving the situation fully, acknowledging it.
And taking ownership of it.
Acknowledge, that's it. You have to
yeah.
love it. You can only own something if you love it.
Yeah.
You're not gonna have something you don't want.
Yeah.
And when you're able to like give it away, like, all right, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love you. Goodbye. So yeah, that was fun. Thanks for listening. I now see why Joe Rogan has the people he's talking to across from him, because my neck hurts from looking at you. Gotta change our setup. But thank you. Love you. Make sure you like, subscribe. We are finally over 100 subscribers on YouTube. Woo!
We're over 100?
Yeah. So grateful for all of you and continuing to just ride this journey with us.
Thank you, guys.
Holla.
Love you. Peace.
Bye.